it's nice to have you on the program. Talk to us, Mr. Dalung. What went through your head? You've been a minister, so you know how this budgeting works. I think you were a minister at the time when we started understanding how a lot of this budgeting is and how these agencies come about. So let's start with that. What are some of the questions that you have been raising since this particular matter came to the fore?
It's unfortunate that we are finding ourselves in this situation. I think the response of the press or the spokesperson of the president from the beginning, is worrisome. This is a very serious issue. Government agencies do not just emerge from the blues. There are laid down governmental processes as to how they come into existence. They are either created by the Federal Executive Council memo, and that memo could be an initiative of an individual who will now route it through the relevant ministry, and is presented to the Federal Executive Council, debated and approved. Once that is done, the Secretary of Government communicates. The President has approved it. The Secretary of Government will communicate the mandate, the structure, policy of the agency to all the relevant government agencies, including the first place should be the Office of the Head of Service, then the Budget Office, the National Security Advisor, and all security agencies. The Budget Office will now review the mandate and create relevant budget items and create codes that will cover those budget line items so that it can be integrated into the budget system. The second process is through executive here. If the president maybe on receive of memos or letters from individuals suggesting the need for the creation of an agency that will intervene, the president, after sending it to his technical team and reviewing it, will through executive pronouncement create the agency, mandate the Secretary of Government to communicate through these same processes. This is how a government agency comes into existence. Now, the Office of the Head of Service and the Office of the Secretary of Government will provide the manpower through the Office of the Head of Service, while the Office of the Secretary of Government will provide accommodation, looking at the nature of the agency. And the one in question is quite strategic because it has a relationship between the presidency, the private sector, and the international community. So it will definitely be housed in a very strategic location where the security of foreign investors and even foreign diplomats who will be engaging will be free and safe. So this is how this is dealt with in government. So I do not think that it is possible for any agency to emerge fictitious at all. It's not possible.
So looking at the statement from the spokesperson of the president, Mr. Bayo Nanuga, what do you make of it? These explanations, do these explanations suffice? Do these explanations suffice in breaking down what has happened here?
No, the explanation succeeded in raising more questions and agitating the minds of Nigerians, creating even more serious issues, both nationally and internationally. Because the explanation failed to account for how fictitious entities in the first place got access to the presidential villa and had their way to have their intention manifested in documents that later found their ways into the federal government offices, security offices, and even the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank is an international organization, and that such individuals could penetrate the central bank have accounts created for them, money budgeted. How did they infiltrate the National Assembly, where we have close to 500 people sitting, and they were able to beat them? Infiltrated the National Assembly, had their way, had budget passed for them, money allocated into those accounts. How did this very fictitious agency of these great entities found its way into the mind of the president and impressed on him to sign the budget containing this fictitious agency, without notice? So these are very, very serious issues. What the spokesperson has done is to help educate us and open our eyes to the magnitude of the institutional collapse that had bedeviled the Nigerian government.
So what do you think happened? The character and the integrity of the chief of staff to the president is being put before the Nigerian people right now. Everyone is looking at Mr. Gbajabiamila and wondering what is going on. Because, you know, and I keep going back to this. Institutional knowledge will help you understand the size of this embarrassment. The understanding of how strict the presidency is, of how detailed the presidency is. There's a person for everything. In fact, there's the committee for everything. It's not something that things can just be, it's the truth. It's not something that things can be slipping through the cracks and they mistakenly put this here and this mistake. No, it's not that sort of institution. It's a very detailed institution. The presidency is very firm. What do you think happened here? The rumors that are going around about the chief of staff to the president, and I'm not going to go into those rumors because I don't want to give life to them. But what do you think has happened in this case? Was this a mistake in your view?
Anybody who is not looking at the chief of staff to the president as a prime suspect is complicit in the entire transaction and needs to be also investigated. Look, those that Nigeria should hold accountable: number one, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu; number two, the chief of staff; number three, the secretary to government of the federation; number four, the national security advisor; number five, the DGSSS; number six, the chairman EFCC; number seven, the central bank governor. These people, I line them, played roles in embarrassing Nigeria. So the chief of staff, who is the ear and the eyes of the president, the gatekeeper, the first contact point with the office of the president, should by this time this would have been suspended before any other investigation, because they're not going to make any headway without him. Adeni did not access the villa except somebody granted him pass. The villa is not zone 4 or a marketplace. Even if on appointment to the villa, you must be accredited with a pass to go in, and the designated area of visit must be all captured within the security network of the villa, monitoring the time you will be there and the time you will leave. So the chief of staff to the president is the number one suspect, because he is responsible for either misleading the president to have gotten himself involved in this, or deliberately failed to provide the relevant information because of his vested interest in this issue, or created this embarrassing situation in pursuit of a personal and selfish agenda, which is at cross purpose with the agenda of the president. These are the tendencies that played out, but either way you go about it, recruiting even an angel to defend you, it will be very, very difficult to exonerate the chief of staff of the president. More so that his office has penchant for this type of fraudulent activities. The do better standard also originated from his office. His office was involved in coordinating the approval of consultancy contracts involving even the Minister of the Interior and some other companies of people who are in government, violating even laid down procedures that the president was able to sweep under the carpet. But the current scenario is an elephant criminal enterprise, that the carpet of the villa is too small for this one to be swept under. And arresting only identity with his co-traveler, and the police now becoming very active, telling us they will be appearing in court, is going to compound the issue. The first thing the government must do is to start where the problem started. How did these people got connected with the villa? And the first person to go out of office to enable us to conduct investigation is the chief of staff, the president. Anybody trying to insinuate, cover up, is part and parcel of this great design to embarrass and destroy Nigeria.
Of course, the president's reputation is also being looked at this very crucial time when the president is trying to gain the trust of the Nigerian people. But I do have to talk to my colleague in Lagos. Ayo has a few questions for you. Go ahead, Ayo.
Well, thank you, Kayla. Barrister Dalung, well, I want to believe that you still practice law one way or the other, even if it is not in the courtroom. But let's look at the flip side of this issue. There are some other claims that have been made that, first of all, the issue goes as far back as 2025, when, you know, the chief of staff had allegedly, you know, written to the authorities to investigate the fellow and, you know, raise some other issues. The statement from the presidency also references a 2016 allegation where the United Nations had to say they didn't know that the fellow existed. Back to 2025, I think it was in November, that the police came up with a report and said, look, we investigated this guy and that we found some fake documents and all of those things and all of those things. And of course, Mr. Adeyemi himself has said, look, if all of these things are not true, let the court decide. But when we look at the historical antecedents that are also coming up here and there, what are your thoughts on the issue? I ask that because it is very easy. Governments all over the world do not enjoy the patronage of their people. We always look at government on the negative side, on the cautious side, on the suspicious side, because the trust quotient has been eroded greatly over the years. But with this information that had gone ahead about almost a year now, what are your thoughts on those previous allegations which spiraled into what we have today?
You know, while discussing issues like this, I'm always passionate about my country and the people. And I tried very, very much to be very fair and put myself in the shoes of those I am accusing. And I always ask myself, if I were in the shoes of the person I'm accusing, would I have acted differently? You see, we are dealing with investigation now. Who do we start calling to answer questions? And we cannot miss the target because we will not get it right. There is a gatekeeper who is manning the gate. And somebody broke into the apartment, successfully occupied, and after some time looted everything in it. And you are now telling us that the person who mans the gate could not see him, did not know until so many years later before he complained. That is called complicity. So I've dealt with the legal aspect of it. Now, why did it take the chief of staff to the president so long to discover? Let me take an item and educate Nigerians. Budgets had processes which they are prepared. Agencies conceived their budgets. They present it to their ministries. The ministries sit over these budgets and review them, align them with their priorities and their envelope. present the same to the Federal Executive Council. The Federal Executive Council discussed it extensively and then prepared it into estimates. And same is presented to the National Assembly. Could it be that these cumbersome and Herculean processes escape the eagle eye of the Chief of Staff of the President? The answer is certainly no. The Chief of Staff of the President is somebody who is all over to ensure that everything involving the office of the President is done within the ambit of procedures and law. So the audit in his office, there should also be a committee or an office dedicated to monitor, manage, and audit the activities of government agencies. What is happening to the Office of Hadiza, the SA policy and implementation? This is one person who had a dedicated office to review, assess, evaluate performances of government agencies. What is Hadiza's report about this agency? How did she get this agency into government for her to assess and submit the report? Because if you go and look at the scorecard of this government and scrutinize it through Hadiza's office, you will find out more embarrassing detail again that this fictitious agency would have been assessed, evaluated, and the government has taken benefit of some of the things it has done. So either way you are going to look at this issue,
well, definitely,
it is going to be too damning.
Yes, definitely, Barrister, but you haven't quite spoken to the issue that I raised about the previous investigation that was conducted and the previous allegations that date back as far as 2016, even 2013, about this particular individual. You have been a government official, so you know how easy it is. I'm just saying here, we've looked at clearly, a good number of Nigerians will agree that the Chief of Staff has questions to answer. And of course, the presidency generally has questions to answer. But then, what about these other previous allegations? The fact that the fellow was investigated, the fact that police found fake documents, the fact that the police said that he probably used fake documentation to open accounts with the CBN and all of those things. So that's on the one hand. You have also said that the federal government has many agencies. As at the time Mr. Ben Akabueze was in government, he listed about 1,500 and something ministries, departments, and agencies of government. Clearly, to monitor all of those things, all those agents would be a job of work. So the question that I'm asking you now about this particular issue is, does the previous investigation of the police, with its reports, and the previous statement that Mr. Gbajabiamila have made, sending to the police, sending to the security authorities to investigate this fellow and denying the fellow, does it count so in this issue as at now?
It helped us expand the scope of the complicity and involvement of everybody. Because the fact that he has been identified as a man of questionable integrity, red flag has been raised. Why was he allowed to continue in that capacity? Why did the police who investigated him found all these facts and still allow him to operate? Why did the Chief of Staff, after receiving this damning report, what did he do about it? So this issue, let me be very, very honest, it can be managed better. But the more they are beginning to deny and take more steps backward, the more they will strip themselves naked, and we will see where they are coming from. It is clear from their report now that this man has integrity issues. But he was allowed to operate. The same police who investigated him saw him receiving foreign nationals. The chairman of EFCC paid him a courtesy visit in his office. He has been receiving all manners of investors. So the silence now on the side of the government means they enabled and created an environment for fraud to be established and entrenched in the institutional tradition of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And they will be able to answer questions why they did not act until now.
Now, there's just one more issue I'd like to raise with you, more because you have been a minister before, so you know how easy it is, or it could be, for someone to throw your name around. You may want to give us an example of how that has happened while you were in office, what your experience has been. That is, if that is the case. But then there is a word that I'd like you to speak to, particularly as a lawyer. When at some point in responding to questions, Mr. Adeyemi was alleged to have said that someone who is now late, $1 Potanimola, helped him to procure the appointment letter. Now, procurement sounds somehow to me. It's not just he received or he was given or whatever. The word used was procure. What does that imply to you?
Appointment in governments sometimes are procured through payment of huge amounts of money. When I couldn't return to the office as a minister, somebody walked from the villa to my house and told me, look, we were responsible for getting your name off after being vetted because you don't give money. You don't give us money. And so now, with the benefit of hindsight, we will want you just, and whatever will take much from you, raise 100 million for us, and we'll be able to return you to your office. And I thank him very much for thinking that I'm worthy of returning to the office with the payment of 100 million. And I told him I don't have such money to give you. So it's something that happened in government. I have even knowledge of those who are friends that had to pay their way into government. So for me, as somebody who has been in government, I know that these things happen. When I went to defend my first budget at the National Assembly, after presenting the theory of my budget, I was asked to raise 200 million. And I advised the Committee on Sports then that from the budget line items created, I didn't see where bribe is one of the budget line items. So I don't know where I was going to get 200 million to give them. And my permanent secretary said, I should keep quiet. I said, my friend, well, if we keep quiet, where are you going to get the money to give them? And the committee said, okay, Mr. Minister, you are excused. We're going to take it up with the permanent secretary. So for all the budget I presented, I will only present the theory. The details, I will be excused. So in my last year in office, the chairman of the committee told me, Solomon Dalung, you are not the only person who was close to Buhari. He named my colleagues who are very close to the president and said, they have given them bribe. So I cannot be pretending. This year, I cannot escape. That's 2019. I must give them 200 million. And they are going to show me where I should go and give the money. I should go to the office of the chairman of EFCC, Magu, and drop the 200 million that they're going to collect it. But of course, I didn't do it. So I was a failed minister because I couldn't manage this aspect of greasing the people's hands very well. But I advised them which offended them. I told them that government monies are spent through this estimate. So let them get the budget office to create a budget line item called bribe. Then they'll either put the code 0010, then they'll put 200 million. Once the president signs it, I'm going to carry the money with escort and bring it to them. So I didn't succeed in managing that because I couldn't give the money and I didn't know where to get the money to give them. So That was one of the major problems I had. So the story of Adeniyi is the main story that we should concentrate on, and that is where investigation should begin. There is also the allegation, there's the allegation of non-remittance of budget allocated. That issue is too weighty to be ignored. So if you turn the theodolite, you zoom the light of investigation to this angle, you will begin to understand why we Onanuga and the image makers, they are trying to distract Nigerians from focusing on the main issue. So that is where investigation should begin.
You've made some really serious statements this morning, and statements that haven't exactly helped with the fears that the Nigerian people already have about the presidency. The concept that you have to pay for, really? I mean, listening to you say all of that, well, you say it happened to you, so I mean, you'll be able to say, look, this was my experience. It's a very messy situation, and the mess is getting bigger. And I listened to you with my colleague. The more you explain this matter, the more you expand the scope of how much we don't understand in this situation. And that question there, you know, that focal person, the chief of staff to the president, maybe an explanation will be necessary. Or some kind of, I don't know if this statement from Bayo Onanuga is getting the job done. If you had the ears of the president, which you once had, not this president, the former president, but if you had the ears of this president, what should they be doing right now about this matter?
You see, what they should have done was to understand the magnitude of the problem and save the country and over 250 million Nigerians. Because there is no Nigerian living that is not going to be affected by what has happened. So I had expected that they could have issued, the first statement should have been, okay, we have, that's come to our attention that this has happened involving social personalities. Government is concerned about what has happened, and government is going to set up an investigation to thoroughly investigate, and anybody found to have been involved, government would definitely have to prosecute such a person. Now, this statement would have been reassuring to Nigerians, and it would have connected the consciences of Nigerians to the fact that, okay, government appreciated the magnitude of what has happened and will do something about it. Even if they do not do anything like that, always on top of the situation like security, Nigerians will still see them as having the intention, maybe they lack the political will to do it. But in the circumstance, they have, by their attempt to explain, exposed themselves as culprits and the roles each of them had played. Because if investigation is going to be very thorough, these persons that I enumerated, they must make statements to help the police to investigate. Even the Inspector General of Police is a culprit because his police investigated. So he must tell Nigerians, after finding Adeniyi as a man of suspicious character, what did the police do? We must see where the police advised government and it was not given attention. So I think if I have the ears of the president, the government needs to beat a retreat now and consult properly and see how they will regain the confidence of the president. I love this president. I only just hate his style of administration, but I love him because, I mean, he was my leader in the struggle when we were in the trenches, struggling for democracy and the unjust. But I think his style of leadership now is quite different from when he was a governor of Lagos. So I'm disappointed that the Lagos magician has no ornament to perform magic now at the national level.
All right, Mr. Dalung, that's all the time we have this morning to talk with you, but I want to thank you very much for making out the time to be with us on Sunrise Daily, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria.